All right, so I was very happy when Daniel was sharing because it's my son. And it's good to see that there's somebody that you love who loves the Lord equally and who is wanting to follow in the same pathway of service for the Lord. It's a very, very happy feeling for me as a father. So I'm very appreciative. I'm thanking the Lord. I'm grateful for the gifts God has given him. My presentation will be more of a Bible study. Some of you were wondering when you come here, what kind of bush these people carrying us into? I know, I got at least one call from somebody who was thinking, I'm lost. I can't be going anywhere in this bush. But faith carried the person through. And here we are. And like I said, when you come to the end, you'll recognize that there is a promised land at the end of the road. It's kind of like a Christian journey, right? Sometimes you think you're in bush, you don't know where you're going. But finally you find that there's an end to it, and the end is so much more beautiful than the bush we have traveled through. Welcome. I hope you enjoy the place. We try to get as many people as possible to come, but some of them had to change their minds at the last moment. But we wanted you to come because if we are living in the last days, there are some things that we need to understand. There are some things we need to understand, and it is our hope and prayer that we will share something today that will make an impact on our lives, not just the baptism. I know some of you came for the baptisms, but hopefully we can share something that will make an impact, that will make a significant change in your lives. So, this thing, I know what happened. It's not plugged in. It won't work that way, will it? All right, so it should work now. All right. Now, there are some people online, and they are going to be, I have to be addressing them from here. So what you will see them on the screen. But I'm going to ask you to pay attention to the presentation itself. So don't get distracted, please. My topic today is the sons of thunder. The sons of thunder. And before I even start, I'm going to tell you that I want to acknowledge a brother from Malawi by the name of Yohani Tembo, who actually helped a lot with the ideas I'm going to share today. Now, I'm going to share something with you this morning, and if you understand what I'm saying, you're going to want to be here for the afternoon. If you leave, half of your life gone. I promise you. But hopefully, you will understand enough this morning that you will want to be here this afternoon. We are doing a Bible study, but if you stay with me, you will find this Bible study interesting. I promise you. So, anyway, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, fine. Thank you. All right. Now, the first thing I want to highlight is that sometimes we find ourselves in congregations. Ever since I became a Christian 50 years ago, ever since I became a Christian, this has been the story of the religious situations I've been in. Always, they were trying to motivate people to be more involved in the work of God. They were trying to motivate people to be more zealous. As a matter of fact, I think Daniel gave us a little touch of it, but not so much. You have always been familiar with constant exhortations to live more holy. People tell you, it's a theme of all religious discussions. You need to live more holy. You need to live a better life. And what happens, in my experience, what I've found in 50 years is that this happens. There are interminable starts and stops. You know what I mean, right? You make a start, and it lasts for a couple of weeks, and then it goes away. You call for a revival, and there's a great ingathering of people, and there's a revival, and it lasts a few weeks, and then it dies away. If you are not motivated to keep pushing people, nothing remains. It starts and it stops. Look at these things on the board and tell me, on the screen, do you find that it is any different in your experience? And what I've found is that if you try to get something going, like you know, we could have called this meeting today and try to motivate everybody to get going, get out there and start working. Jesus is coming. It will last until it fades in your mind and it goes away. That's how it works. And I've found out that there are 3 things, I'm going to call them 3 M's, that God's movements are always based on. In other words, I've come to realize that man cannot create the work of God. If God does not do it, we can forget it. Every movement that God begins has 3, I'm going to call them 3 M's. And I'm going to tell you what those M's are. We can keep them in mind. First of all, there's a mission. Anytime God starts something, there's always a mission. There's always some goal and some purpose. I refer to it as a mission. That's the first M. Secondly, there's always the mandate. What is a mandate? It's the charge. It's the command. It's the instruction. Okay? If you don't have a mandate, what are you doing? You don't have any business in this thing. Okay? If you see some people working together to create some kind of new technological device, maybe a car that runs off water or something, and you don't know what's going on, and nobody has called you and asked you to participate, you don't have a mandate. Stay out of it. Okay? A mandate is when you have some reason, somebody has invited you, somebody has called you, somebody has instructed you to make you know you have a part here. Like if somebody met you coming through the bush and they say, "What are you doing here?" You say, "I have been invited to a meeting." Okay, you have a kind of mandate. A mandate is stronger, it's like a command. But anyway, that's the idea. That's the second M, the mission, the mandate. Anybody can guess the third thing? Huh? It's another M. All right, it's the message. Where Christianity is concerned, if you don't have a message, where are you going? Now, most people think they understand the message and some kind of have an idea about the mission, but most people don't really feel a mandate. I became a Christian, like I said, 50 years, and sometimes I wonder, because I see people become Christians. They are baptized today, and in another 2 years, and they are gone. They don't have a mandate. They don't have that sense of being called. That's what happens. If you don't have a mandate, if you don't think that God has said to you, "Come," you end up going, not staying. Somebody has to keep pushing you and hauling you. You need a mandate. You need to understand the mission. And very importantly, you need to understand the message. Now, let me give you some examples. For example, at the time of the Exodus, God said to Moses, "Come now, therefore, and I will send thee." There's the mandate. Why did Moses go? God said, "I will send you, that thou mayest do what? Bring forth my people." There is what now? The mission. There's a mission. The children of Israel out of Egypt. "And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, Thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto thee, Let my son go, that he may serve me." What is that? That's the message. So you see, the mandate, the mission, and the message. So Moses had a reason to go. He had all 3 things. Every movement that is from God, it has these 3 things. Mandate, mission, and message. Remember those 3 M's. I found 3 M's because it's easier to remember. In the apostolic church, "And he said unto them," Mark 16:15, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." What are the 3 M's? What is the first? What is go ye? The mandate or the command. And preach, what is that? The mission. And what is the message? The gospel. So every time God is doing something, you have those three things. If any of them is missing or is not very clear, the work is going no place. And one of the reasons why the work of God is in a kind of flux today, kind of lagging. You know what it is? Some people don't understand the message. Some people don't know the mission. And many people have no mandate. They don't feel called. They don't feel like God has put his hand on me and said, go. And if God has not told you go, where would you be going anyway? Because David says go, or Daniel says go, or somebody else says go. You're going to go? Look here, I better keep pushing you all your life if that is the case. You need to have a mandate from God. And along with the mandate, you must have an understanding of the mission and absolutely the message. Remember my topic today. I'm going to look at something interesting. Okay? Jesus' peculiar labels. What does that mean? All right. Look at this statement in Mark 3:16-17. And Simon, he surnamed Peter. What did Jesus do? There was a man named Simon, and Jesus looked at him and said, your name is Peter. He gave the man a different name. And James, the son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, and he surnamed them Boanerges, which is the sons of thunder. Now, the brother who shared this with me, he said what I have always said. I thought James and John were the sons of thunder because they were noisy, like to make noise and like to break fight, and were very disorderly, so Jesus called them the sons of thunder. But absolutely, when we begin to look at it a little more closely, that is not the meaning of the sons of thunder. Not at all. There's something far more amazing and beautiful behind the title, the sons of thunder. Jesus named a few people, and I want to show you something about the naming. 5, I found in the Bible, 5 people, or 6, but really 5 in a way. 5 people who were named by Jesus. And look at them. On the left, I will have the person. On the right, I have Jesus' label. Now, everybody can see the screen? If you can't, put up your hand. Wonderful. Person number 1, Judas. What did Jesus name him? The son of perdition. You remember? Jesus gave him a nickname. Call him the son of perdition. He says, the only one that I've lost is the son of perdition. Next one is John the Baptist. What did Jesus call him? Elijah. Jesus said, Elijah has already come, and they understood that he was speaking of John the Baptist. Now, the other 3, I'm sure you may not be as familiar with. Nathanael. Anybody knows what Jesus called Nathanael? He said, this is an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile. And guile means trickery or deception. So he called Nathanael a true Israelite. What about Simon? Peter, of course. He named Simon Peter. And then there was James and John, and he called them what? The Boanerges, or the sons of thunder. So, 5 labels. Maybe there's somebody else that Jesus named and I didn't catch it, but I looked through the Gospels, and these are the 5 persons I found that Jesus gave names. And you might be asking, why? Why these strange titles that Jesus just took and put on these people? I mean, if I say dog to you, you know I'm trying to be insultive, but it's a common insult. Or you're an idiot, or you're stupid. But these names seem to be very carefully thought out, very carefully designed for some reason. And what we want to look at is, what is the reason? Judas, the son of perdition. John the Baptist, Elijah. Nathanael, a true Israelite. And right down to James and John being the sons of thunder. Now I'm going to say something that I'm going to prove. Each label, each one of these labels represents a significant element in God's work at the end of time. Now, I have not proved that. I'm making this premise. I'm going to prove it in a moment, right? But each one of them represents some outstanding factor in the work of God at the end of time. And if this is true, and you believe we are living in the end of time, you will understand why these names should be important to us. All right? Now, if you don't understand anything I say, people, put up your hand. I will accept it. I want to make sure you understand. I didn't come here today, and we didn't invite you today just to be entertained or to fall asleep. I want to make sure you understand, right? Because when you understand, at least now you have an option to decide, what am I to do? Or is there anything I'm to do? All right? That's the point. So, here are the people. Here is the label. And on the right, I'm going to put the characteristic. When Judas was called the son of perdition, what characteristic do you think Jesus was focusing on relating to the work at the end? Betrayal or treachery. Who was Judas? He was a traitor. And what does Paul say? He talks about a certain man who will come that he calls what? He calls him the son of perdition. He refers to him as the man of sin who will sit in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. But he also is the son of perdition. In other words, the characteristic of Judas is to appear in this person down at the end of time. Whether it's a person or a dynasty, the characteristic of Judas. And so what we are told, what it helps us to understand about this man of sin at the end of time, is that he will be a traitor. He will be somebody who seems to be a Christian, somebody who is found in the Christian church, but he will end up betraying the Lord. This will be a major element in the church at the end of time. That's why Jesus labeled Judas the son of perdition, so Paul could come along and use the name again, and so we could understand that in the church at the end of time, this is going to happen. So our eyes are open, and we are looking for this. What about John the Baptist? Jesus called him Elijah. What does that signify at the end of time? Forerunner. Okay. The forerunner, the one who prepares the way of the Lord. I'm going to put something else, but I'm not denying forerunner. But I think Elijah represents the power that will be with God's people at the end. A significant element of the church will be that there will be great power with God's people. All right. What about Nathanael? You might be able to guess this one now. Nathanael, Jesus says, "Behold, a true Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile." What does that remind you of at the end of time? The 144,000, it says, in their mouth is found a what? No guile. In Zephaniah chapter 3 and I think verse 17, it says, "The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies. Neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth." One emphasis, I decided I'm going to look at this. One emphasis that seems to come up when God talks about the end is no deception, no lies. Very strong. And when Jesus looked at Nathanael, he says, "Look, a true Israelite, an Israelite indeed." What marks him? There is no deception and no guile in this person. It seems to be an outstanding mark of God's people at the end. I see your brother John. I'll come to you in a moment. It seems to be an outstanding mark. So a true Israelite is to be marked by people in whom is no guile. And this is the mark of the 144,000. So Nathanael represented the character of God's end time people. Look at those three. Judas, John the Baptist, Nathanael, Jesus giving us insights into the work of God at the end. And remember, we still have Simon and the sons of thunder. Simon, Peter, the rock. And what we are looking at is the great foundation of the church. What did Jesus say about Peter? When he called Simon Peter, what did he say? When he named him as Peter, what did he say? "Upon this rock I will build my church." And what was the rock? "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." In other words, the people of God at the end will know the identity of Jesus. They will know that Jesus is the Son of the living God. That's one hallmark of the true church of Christ at the end of time. So, look at these four names. They show you that there's going to be a traitor. There's going to be treachery involved in the church at the end. There's going to be great power. There's going to be great character. And they are going to be standing on the great foundation. One foundation. And Jesus named Peter. You are Peter. So he could identify the foundational truth. That's the fourth characteristic. Now, James and John. Jesus named them as the sons of thunder. That is our title today. That's what we are going to look at, the sons of thunder. What does that mean? Because if all the others who were named clearly show you that they have a clear characteristic at the end of time, what of the sons of thunder? And I have to admit, this is one of the things I've come to understand in the Bible that has really thrilled and blessed me. You know, there are certain things in the Bible you think you'll never understand. Certain things in the Bible you think you'll never understand because it doesn't seem like there's any way you can possibly understand it. It just looks like the way is closed up. And then one day you come to understand, and it is absolutely amazing. And I'll show you. You'll understand what I mean. There's a promise in the Bible that at the end of time there's going to be a message. Remember the three things. There's to be a mission, a mandate, and a message. The Bible tells you that at the end of time, there's going to be not just a message, but an end time message. Now, all of us, we believe in the gospel, right? Go to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Jesus says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. So every Christian understands my job is to preach the gospel. However, can it be that we focus so much on what was said then that we miss something equally important? Now, God promises that there's going to be a message at the end of time. And let us look at it. In the book of Daniel, in chapter 12 and verse 4, look at what an angel told Daniel. Look at this. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book till when? Even to the time of the end. Now, I ask you a question. Do you believe that Peter or James or John or Paul understood this message? Answer me like a chorus. You should. No. Why? Because God shut up whatever is in the book of Daniel. Nobody could understand it until the time of the end. So what the disciples were preaching, there's something more involved at the time of the end. I don't know. If you're a Christian, your heart should be burning. If you're not, you might be falling asleep, and that's okay. Because you can't make blood out of stone. But, yeah, maybe you are people who have to drive miles and cross water before you go home, so I have to understand. In the same book, same chapter, a little further down, in chapter 12, verses 9 to 10, it says, and he said, go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Who can understand it before then? Nobody. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. But look at this. This is the part that should catch everybody's attention. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. If this was the only verse in the Bible, I'd grab onto it and hold on to it and try my best to understand. Because if God says, only the wise will understand what is locked up in the book of Daniel, and the wicked will try, but they won't, my goodness, I would have to make sure that I'm on the correct side. Now, I hope this is making an impact on the minds of every one of us, because these are the true words of God Almighty. There's a message at the end that only the wise will understand. The rest will not understand. Deliberately designed by God to be shut out from the world, it is for his people at the time of the end. Look at a few facts about this message. One, it is locked up in the book of Daniel. Any question about that? That's clear as ABC. The angel says, shut up the words and seal the book. So whatever it is, it's locked up in the book of Daniel. Second thing, it is only revealed at the end of time. Third thing, it was not known to the apostolic church. If you want to find this message, you cannot go to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or the book of Acts. You have to go back to the book of Daniel. And it turns out another book too, but I'll tell you about that. Fourth thing, It's different from the Apostolic Commission, which is go and preach the gospel to all the world. But at the same time, it's Jesus' last revelation at the end. What do I mean? Jesus gave, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, you find the story of Jesus. In the book of Acts, you find those who went out and preached Jesus' message, right? Why didn't the Bible stop with Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the book of Acts? Or let us say the letters of the apostles, Romans, and the books of John, and the books of Peter and James. Why didn't the Bible stop? What is this book at the end, the book of Revelation? What is it doing there? And look at how it starts. The revelation of Jesus Christ. Something that is brand new, something that is unknown. It is not included in the four Gospels. It is not included in the Acts of the Apostles. It's down at the end. Jesus comes back. What is it? It's AD 95. It's about 70 years after he dies. He comes back and he gives another message. A special message, because he says, blessed are they who hear and read and keep the things that are there. Now what you see is that this book is indissolubly bound up with the book of Daniel. Those two books go together. The message of the book of Daniel is tied to the message of Revelation. Jesus comes back after everything is done and he gives one last message. I call it Jesus' last will and testament. The last thing you do before everything comes to an end. But at the same time, point number 6, it is still the everlasting gospel. What Jesus brings us at the end is not divorced from what went before. It is building on it, but it is giving information that was never available before. Now, this message in the book of Daniel is opened in Revelation chapter 10. I'll just show you that very quickly. In Revelation 10 verses 1 and 2 it says, I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, his feet as pillars of fire, and he had in his hand a little book open. He set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth. So here's an angel, he comes and he stands, one foot on the earth, one foot on the sea, and he lifts up his hand. And he has a little book open in his hand. Which little book? Let's see. And he cried with a loud voice as when a lion roareth. And when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered, and write them not. I just read that and said, I erased that from my mind. I just blanked my mind because I say it's not written. Nobody says what it is. It's impossible to know those 7 thunders. I've changed my mind. A little further in the chapter, in verses 10 and 11, it says, John says, and I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. Let me ask you a question. Prophesy what? If you want to give me a quick answer, I'll accept it. What has John heard to enable him to prophesy again? As Sister Tracy says, it has to be involved with the little book that is open, plus the 7 thunders. The only thing John heard was 7 thunders. And he saw the angel with a little book in his hand. Then he's told to go and prophesy. Obviously, what he's to go and prophesy involves what he heard the thunders say, tied up with the book of Daniel. Man, you should feel at this moment like a bloodhound with his nose to the trail, like a detective on the path and getting clues, because little by little, we are beginning to build to understand that there's something here, probably something that was thought impossible. As soon as I read this, many years ago, I just erased the 7 thunders from my mind. Nobody can understand it. They were not written. They were not recorded. God told John to shut it up and seal it. When God seals something, who can open it? But remember, he said the same thing about the book of Daniel. Shut it up and seal it. but only till the time of the end. Maybe there's something there that we can figure out. So just to illustrate, in Daniel chapter 12, Daniel saw a man standing on the water, an angel actually. And in Revelation 10, John saw another angel. This one was standing both on the sea and on the land. Two angels. And I want to show you the similarity between them. This is the connection now I'm trying to make between Daniel 12 and Revelation chapter 10. I'm trying to make the connection. Look at this. In Daniel 12, there was a book that Daniel was told to seal. It was the book of Daniel. In Revelation 10, I didn't set up this thing properly. There's a little book that is opened. Right, that's what it should be. There's a little book that is open. Pardon me, this thing is behaving like I never expected it to. All right, so in Daniel 12, Daniel was told to shut up the book until the time of the end, until a certain time. What about in Revelation? In Revelation 10, the angel holds up his hand and he says, there shall be time no longer. Shut up till a certain time. And the other angel says, time no longer. The book is sealed. The book is open. Let's go on. Just bear with me. Bear with me. The one in Daniel 12 is standing on the river. What about the one in Revelation 10? Stood on both water and on land. Let's go on. The one in Daniel 12 holds up his hands to heaven. What about the one in Revelation? Same thing. The one in Daniel 12, he swears by God, by the one who lives forever and ever. What about the one in Revelation? Same exact thing. You kind of get the idea now that God is trying to make a connection. He's showing you something. There's a connection between Daniel 12 and Revelation 10. Two books that are 600 years apart. Two different writers, but the same God. God tells Daniel, shut up the book. In Revelation 10, you see the book open. So what should we be focusing on? What is in the book? And our clues are somewhere in Revelation 10. Revelation 10 gives us a clue where to look. Daniel's book is sealed until the end. Revelation 10, it's not sealed. Revelation 10 is not sealed because John is told that he's to go and give this message where? To every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. I hope everybody is seeing what I'm saying. Daniel 12, everything is locked up and sealed. Revelation 10, everything is opened, and John is told to go and prophesy again before all nations. But hold on. It gets more interesting. The thunders and the three M's. What are the three M's again? Mandate, mission, message. Wow, praise the Lord. Nobody's falling asleep. The thunders and the three M's. Daniel's mystery, I'm going to suggest to you, is revealed in the seven thunders. If you don't know what the thunders are saying, you cannot understand the mystery that is sealed up in Daniel. Only one human knew the message of the thunders. Who was it? John is the only human being in existence who knew what the seven thunders said. He heard the thunders. He didn't write it down. He didn't record it. He didn't speak it. God said, shut it up and seal it. And yet you think, is God a waster of time? Why speak seven thunders and nobody hears it and nobody understands and nobody can speak it? Why? It's one of the mysteries that I really butted my head around and I couldn't find an answer. Why speak it and nobody can understand it? It's not even written down. If something is recorded, you can at least go and try to analyze the words and try to decipher it. But the words are not even there. So it seems an impossibility to understand. But there is one human being who knew what the seven thunders said, and it was John. This John was called what? The Son of Thunder. Remember, Jesus gave him that name. him and his brother James, but remember James died early. But John remained. Jesus said to him, your name is the son of thunder. John hears the seven thunders, and he's the only human being who ever heard them and who knows what are these seven thunders. So he had the message. Now he's given the mandate because the voice says to him, you must prophesy again before all nations, kindred, tongue, and people. So there's a mandate. And of course, the missing thing is the mission. And the mission is prophesy again. So in the message, in John's experience in Revelation 10, we see a message, we see a mandate, and we see a mission. Now here's a really interesting thing. Those people that Jesus named, what do they represent? End time emphasis. An end time emphasis among God's people. So if John is the sons of thunder, the son of thunder, John must represent an end time. I think I have it here. All of them have their characteristic, but John is in question. John represents the message at the end of time. And the people who understand the message at the end of time, what label would you give to them? The sons of thunder. The people who understand the message at the end are the John class. Can I put it that way? They are the John people. They are the sons of thunder. The people, so you have Judas. Those are the traitors among Christians. That is those are they who betray the Lord and embrace the world and love the world. They are Judas. That doesn't concern us. But John the Baptist represents the power that will accompany God's people. Nathaniel represents the character that will go with God's people. Peter represents the foundation on which a church is built at the end of time. The rock that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. John, the son of thunder, represents those who carry the message for the end of time. Remember, many Christians carry the gospel from the time of the apostles coming right down through the ages. But nobody ever carried the message of the thunders because it was locked up and sealed till when? The time of the end. Nobody ever gave the message of the seven thunders. And yet these seven thunders, they have to be in line with the everlasting gospel because there's only one gospel. There's nothing else, but it has to be a further understanding of the gospel at the time of the end. And only the sons of thunder. Now, let me say something. I know Christians are very fond of what I call elitism. What I mean is everybody likes to think that he's special. And every group that comes along. God's only church. God's remnant. The church of the firstborn. And they give themselves labels and they boost themselves. And I am very afraid of that kind of attitude. I think that when people start to think that you are better than other people, are more special than other people, you end up like the Jews or certain other people. You end up developing a mindset that divorces you from God's favor. And I'm not trying to do this. But what I want to do is to look at the Bible and see if we can honestly draw conclusions from what the Bible says, because there will be an end time people that carry God's message, and the message is clearly in the Bible. There will be an end time people who have all these characteristics. That's why Jesus gave it. And at some point, in some time, in the grace of our God, there will be people who understand these things. There has to be, because the word of God is not recorded in vain. John represents the end time sons of thunder. That's why that is my topic today. I want to see if I can persuade you all that it is worth considering the message of the thunders, because when we understand them, do we have a mandate? Do we have a mission? Do we have a message? You know, there's a verse in the Bible that says, where is it? It's in the book of Psalms somewhere. It says, thy people shall be willing. In what? Man, I wish everybody knew it. Somebody find the verse and so we can share it, because it looks like not everybody knows it. Your people will be willing in the day of your power. Look here, until that time happens. Look here, I can push Brother David until the cows come home. I can push Brother Chris, I can cajole, I can beg, I can plead. How long do you think they're going to respond? A few days, a few weeks, and then it's fading away to nothing. I never understood this as a young Christian. I tried to bring a revival for the whole world. I wore myself out almost to death. And we only had starts and stops. That's all that ever happened. You need a mission, a mandate, and a message. But look here. I'll tell you something. We have been studying the prophecies all my life, as Daniel said. I tried to get my family to come with me. And my family, my children were homeschooled, right? So they stayed with me. But as Daniel pointed out, everybody becomes an adult. You go your own way. You find your own course. You might come to church still, but your heart and your mind is not there. Until God puts his hand on you, you're a token Christian. You're just a church member. But look, you know what I like? I'm only mentioning my family because they are close to me, okay? I know what's going on. But I saw Daniel come back home, and I saw him embrace with his whole heart. And you know I'm happy. As Daniel said, the only reason I didn't turn somersault is because my bones won't permit it anymore. But then, as we have been studying some of these things, I saw my daughter, Annalie. She got involved. She started clipping bits from the videos and putting them up on TikTok and on YouTube and starting to build a following. I never said a word to her, and I never said a word to Daniel. And you know what is working in my mind? Why, at this time, the sudden interest? And I remember the verse that says, your people shall be willing in the day of your power. Brothers, sisters, and friends, I want you to consider well if we may be living in the day of God's power or close to it. I want you to consider. I want you to consider, like Daniel said this morning, if you are pursuing the interest of Lot's wife. I saw people in the chat saying, well, I think Lot's wife was really concerned about her family. And that's probably true. She left some children in Sodom. That would break anybody's heart. But Jesus used her as an emblem of those who were tied to the world. He never gave the example of her being tied to her children. I don't think he would have done that. He used her as an example of those who are tied to the world and to worldly things. On the day when Sodom was destroyed, somebody's heart was still there. On the day when the flood came, people were outside mocking until the clouds began to gather and they realized something strange was happening. Just too late because the door was already closed. What I would like all of us to consider today, if we are living in the day of God's power. God says at this time, his people will be willing. Nobody has to push, nobody has to cajole, nobody has to beg, nobody has to try to browbeat you into becoming committed, because the Spirit of God has given you a message and a mandate and a mission. And when you have that, nobody needs to say anything. These are enough to get you going if you really know the Lord. John represents the end-time sons of thunder who have a message from the Lord. It represents, it consists of those who understand Daniel's book or Daniel's key message. Let me put it that way. Revelation chapter 10 gives us the end-time people. They are the sons of thunder. The end-time mission, it's to go. It's to prophesy to the whole world. The end-time mandate, you must prophesy again. And the end-time message, the seven thunders. What are those seven thunder messages? We have been going a long time. And that's why I tell you, if you understand what I'm saying, you'll be back this evening, because that will be answered this afternoon. Okay. So you understand there's a mandate, there's a mission, but the message will be this afternoon.